So you want to be a bow hunter. It ain't cheap. I originally thought, oh, I just need a bow and some arrows, and that'll be way cheaper than ammunition for a gun. I was wrong. But there are ways you can get into it relatively inexpensively. And I'm just going to give you a couple of quick tips on how I did it. And we're going to get to that right now. So obviously the first thing you're going to need is a bow. Now there's a couple different avenues you can take to get a bow. Pawn shops, they can be, you can get a bow super cheap at a pawn shop, but you have to be very careful. Always inspect your limbs, your cams, make sure it hasn't been dropped. Just really look it over. I mean, if possible, take somebody with you who knows something about bows. I actually got this Bear Pledge, I believe. I got this for $85. It was, off season, summertime. Bought it for 85 bucks, slapped a couple accessories on it, and I hunted with that for a whole season. But like I said, you have to be really careful, and always plan, if you buy a bow used just in general, if you don't know where it's been, plan on buying a new set of strings and having that it was put on. Another avenue you can take is Facebook groups or Craigslist. With Facebook groups, you always want to make sure it's something local. I do not recommend getting a bow shipped to you that might not get shipped to you. I've seen tons of people get scammed on there, and I don't want to see anybody else get scammed. But I got, like I said, I got this Bear Pledge pretty cheap. I think brand new, this is a $200 bow. Not bad. You can get a lot of budget bows. Every manufacturer has a budget line. I think Matthews has Mission. There's a lot out there. And eventually I stumbled upon a better bow, a little older. Now, if you're buying bows secondhand, you can get a flagship model bow that may have cost $1,500 brand new for $600 2 years later. They don't hold their value very well, with the exception of some traditional bows. I got this Matthews Z7, picked this up for, I want to say, 300 bucks. It's an older bow, but it's a great bow. And just do your research. Don't just buy the first thing that comes to you. Another option that some people might not think about is a traditional bow. It takes a lot more of a commitment. You have to practice with those things almost every day to get proficient with them, but it's very satisfying. You can pick up a Samick Sage for around, I don't know what they're going for now, 150 to 200 bucks. But like I said, a lot of time dedication to that, but it's fun. I'm really leaning towards maybe next season trying my hand at taking a whitetail with the Samick, but just an option. All right, the next thing you're gonna need are accessories. This is gonna be your sights, your rests, and your releases. Now, as far as sights go, if you're on a budget, these Trophy Ridge sights, I'm not even sure the model of this one. It's a 4-pin. I think this is the Joker. Comes with a little rheostat light. These run like 20 bucks, and honestly, up until this upcoming season, I hunted with one of these. I hunted with this one, and I had great success with it. But can't go wrong with this in the beginning. Next, you're going to need a rest. Now, the cheapest and arguably the most reliable rest I can think of are one of these whisker biscuits. And they're called that because they got whiskers. Focus. There we go. Whiskers encapsulate your arrow, and it's shaped like a biscuit. Hence the name Whisker Biscuit. So those two things will get you up and running as far as setting up your bow. And honestly, if you're going to buy a most used or new bows, unless you buy it bare bow, is going to come with these accessories anyway. But the next thing, and one of the more important things to me, are releases. Now you have a couple of options here. I mean, you got tons of options here. But starting out, a lot of people go with the wrist strap. This is a TrueFire Smoke, I believe. I haven't hunted with this thing in a while. But a lot of people start out with these wrist releases just because it's a little easier, the learning curve on these. And you can get, I think the Smoke was like 30 bucks. You can get a TrueFire Patriot, which is, I think, is what I started with, for 20 bucks. Might catch them on sale for 15. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'll put links in the descriptions to all the stuff. But if you really want to get into a higher end release, you can try a thumb style. This one is called, focus. This one's called a Whippersnapper. Whippersnapper by Spot Hog. And this one, the way it works, instead of pulling a trigger, you're using your thumb and releasing like so. Now, there's tons of videos on these and those, but you know, it's personal choice. I like this style, but you might like the other. Next up is arrows, and I could go super in depth on these, but I'm not, because there's a ton of other videos that do. But what I will suggest is get the correct spined arrows for your bow. And you can pull up a spine chart online, or print one off. They look something like this right here. But basically, it's just how much your arrow flexes according to your poundage and the length of the arrow. You can really nerd out on arrows, FOC and GPI and how much tip weight you have. But the main thing is just make sure they are correctly spined. Don't just go out and buy the first arrows you see. And as far as like a budget arrow, off the top of my head, the only one I could think of that's pretty decent that I have experience with is the GT Gold Tip Hunters. I think you can pick 6 of those up for 50 bucks. And if you go to a pro shop or even a big box store, sometimes they'll cut them to the correct length. For me, I cut my arrows, I think, right at my draw length, so they stick out a little past my shelf. But you can get super into these. I actually fletch my own, which you can get all fancy like this. But like I said, starting out, just focus on spine, and you can find deals out there. Now, one of the most important items you will invest in archery is a rangefinder. And they're not cheap, but you can find them at pawn shops, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, even eBay. I think I picked this one up for $40 a couple years back at a pawn shop. It served me well, probably needs to be replaced, and I'll invest in that in the future. But if you can't find a used one, I think Halo makes a pretty budget-friendly rangefinder, Simmons as well. But with these lower-end rangefinders, you're not going to have angle correction on your rangefinder, which you know, tells you the angle you're shooting at, because you have to know that. If you're shooting down out of a tree stand and you range something and it says 20 yards, it could be 10 yards depending on your angle. So you have to take that into account. And what I usually do with these lower end rangefinders is I'll range trees around me in a straight line, and to use that tree as a reference to when the animal walks by that tree, I know that tree's at 20 yards because I ranged it earlier. But just look around, you'll find one pretty decent shape for a decent price. Camo. People spend ridiculous amounts of money on camo. I can't afford to invest a couple of grand in some Sitka gear just to whitetail hunt. Now don't get me wrong, if I could, I would. But there's some options. You can find stuff at Walmart, especially if you go around February, March when they start clearancing out the hunting section. You can get a full camo outfit for half the price that you would, during hunting season. But you can also hit up thrift stores. I always look for wool clothing at thrift stores for my underlayers. Now, as far as thermals go, if you buy some dollar store thermals, you're going to be shivering in your stand. You want to buy merino wool if you can for your underlayers. Maybe splurge a little bit more on that, not so much the outer layers. And then as the years go on, you'll build up more clothes and, warmer stuff. But in the beginning, it works. Tree stands and blinds. You don't absolutely need these to hunt, but to be successful with whitetail, you need some sort of cover. You can find tree stands on Craigslist, again, Facebook Marketplace. I actually traded my neighbor an old lawnmower for 5 tree stands. Now you can get there's a couple of different styles of tree stands. You can get a lock-on, which is the one that just locks into place. You can get climbers, which is great if you're hunting on property that you have to get your stand out. You can't just leave it there. And then a ladder stand, which to me is the safest way to go. A little harder to set up, but once you do, they're very stable. Now blinds, which I just purchased one last year. I don't have a lot of experience hunting out of those, but if you are going to purchase a blind, make sure that it is big enough for you to draw back your arms to shoot your bow, or it's useless. Now, blinds can get kind of expensive. I think, can't remember the manufacturer of the one I bought, but I got it on clearance after season, once again, for around $100, and it's a decent quality blind. So just keep your eye out and you'll find something. Well, that's it, folks. That is just a few tips to get you bow hunting cheaply. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I want to give a huge shout out to my buddy Redneck Trail Mix. He has a YouTube channel as well, and he hooked me up with this awesome camera setup, and once I figure out how to use it, I'm sure the videos will get much better. But hit that like and subscribe button for me, and everybody have a great day.